So once again, we went moto camping. Let's check it out. What's going on YouTube? FXDL's Brooklyn is back in the building, and it's about 7:30 or 8 a.m. in the morning. Sorry, it's 8:30 right now. We're up in the Adirondacks, and I figured I just wanted to shoot a little video as I'm breaking down camp, just to kind of show you what the setup is and what the campsite was and what this experience was kind of like doing a moto camping trip by myself, doing a solo one, because this is the first time I've ever done it solo. There's the bike. You can see pretty basic setup. I think I showed you in a previous video. In terms of a storage situation, really just the big bar bag up here. You know, I got a tool roll under there. We got the sissy bar without the pad on. Then we got the Leather Pros. All that was more than enough to fit in everything you're kind of seeing right now, which is pretty minimal and pretty simple setup. You know, obviously you're not seeing everything. I got a bunch of the little nitty gritty items packed in my Builtwell bag behind there, but we'll talk about that as we get further. So the site's pretty awesome. As you can see, we got a lot of space here. All this is one site and there's nobody around. I was pretty much the only one here. And as you can see, all this is just kind of backed by raw land, just woods. So I really enjoyed the site here. Like I said, it was super secluded in the middle of nowhere, and really just that feeling like you're in the woods by yourself, which is, I think, the feeling we're trying to recreate when we do trips like this. Got a little picnic table here, you know. In here, I got my coffee set up. You know, we got an AeroPress, a hand grinder, coffee beans, you know, basics. We're just making campfire coffee. With a solo stove with an alcohol burner is what I use to make coffee in the morning. It's the easiest setup. Got some rain gear. It's probably gonna rain today. Got my clear visor. This is one item that was new for this trip. This is called the Groundbreaker. This is basically just a self-inflating sleeping mat, because as you can see, it's pretty hard ground, right? The ground here is so hard that I didn't even need to throw my kickstand down, my little piece of wood, because the kickstand's not really going in there at all, you know. So again, the ground here is pretty hard. So the lesson that was learned the last time is don't expect there to be cushy grass where you're camping. You know, be prepared. And this thing did the job. You know, it takes like a minute to inflate this by yourself, and then, you know, don't get me wrong, it's not going to feel like you're sleeping on a purple mattress or a Casper, but it's going to get the job done, and you'll be able to fall asleep and not feel any rocks or sticks or whatever poking into your back while you're sleeping. Got, of course, our standard coffee mug. This thing has survived a lot of bike trips at this point. Shout out to Stacy Wilt, Ride to Food. This thing is great. This bag over here is actually for this chair that I got over there that fits into that bag, and that's one of the things that I had loaded up on the bike. You know, chair is great. You know, it's nice to have it. I haven't really taken enough time to just sit in that chair and chill in front of the fire. I feel like I've been moving around a lot, just doing this and that. But the chair packs down really well, and it folds up, and you're literally unpacking that thing and getting it set up within a minute. It's super fast. Got a nice fire pit here. You know, we picked up 3 bundles of wood. The guy at the front desk told me that there was no way I was going to be able to transport 3 bundles of wood in one shot. Lo and behold, he didn't know who he was dealing with. So this is one of the things that I probably should talk about, this tent. And, you know, I'm used to, when I go camping, like setting up my tent, setting up all the elbows, like a standard tent. You know, you got your elbows, you got your tent, you got your rain cover, you're setting it up. This is a very special tent. The company, obviously, this is not somebody that sponsors me or anything. You know, this is just what we had lying around at the campground. Reactive Outdoor. Literally, this tent, all these elbows are already attached to the tent. So there's this mechanism up here that you just pop open, and this whole thing just lifts up and comes together. So you're setting up a tent in literally under a minute, which setup and breakdown is really nice for these types of situations, especially if you're doing the bike trips and you're trying to move in and move out as efficiently and quickly as possible. And I had my doubts about it. Like, my dad had been talking this thing up, and I was like, I don't know, man, it just seems too good to be true. I feel like there's got to be a catch here. So I was kind of expecting last night one of the zippers to break or something to happen. But honestly, man, this thing held together great, did its job last night. And like I said, setting this thing up and breaking it down is under a minute. So if you're doing bike trips and you're on the move, yeah, I'm pretty happy about this. I would definitely use this again. You know, we got our little garbage bag here. We want to leave no trace, LNT. And this thing is gonna get a separate video. This duffel bag over here. This is the Biltwell Xville 65. And you know, I talked about it a little bit in a video before this. This is like a smaller Xville 80. How much smaller? Well, 15 beers smaller is how much you would measure that by. And this is the first trip I've used this on, and honestly, I'm really happy with it. The whole thing is waterproof. So what that meant is I could, everything I just wanted to make sure it was dry last night because it did rain. So like clothes, kindling, hoodie, you know, anything I wanted to remain dry, I just threw it in this bag, you know, closed the bag and left it out here, and that was it. You know, nothing, no water got in there, and all those items were things I didn't have to put in the tent. You know, all I really had to put in the tent was my helmet in terms of things that I didn't want to get wet. So this bag was really nice for it. You know, in terms of getting it on and off the bike, I really like how it kind of handles like a duffel bag, which I thought was great. And yeah, there's just a lot of tie down points. You could get pretty creative and versatile. If you saw my load up video before, you saw I had all sorts of stuff tied down onto this thing, and this bag is a really good central piece if you're doing, like, I don't know, I would say a day trip or a couple nights, right? I don't know if I would take this on the long road, like a 3-week Sturgis trip, but I could say that for the trip that I just did, you know, moto camping for a night, this thing was great. And yeah, we got the chair. You know, I'm gonna break that down in a minute. Got the bike ran amazing. You know, one thing I was a little bit sketched out about is I forgot my wireless pump, so I was just praying that I wasn't going to catch a flat on this trip, because if that happened on any of these backcountry roads out here, I'd be in trouble. Be taking a 10-mile hike to the nearest whatever. But yeah, the bike ran phenomenally. I'm really happy with this bike, and I've had my doubts about touring on this thing, but I think within this trip it kind of showed that yeah, it could handle the bike trips. You know, it could definitely handle moto camping. So I'm definitely happy with the performance of the bike on this particular trip. Things I will mention about this, and like I said, there's other stuff I want to talk to you about, but I'm not about to unload that bag right now. Like, I wanted to talk to you guys about the Solo stove, which is a really easy way to make coffee. You know, some other little things that I've learned just from this not being my first time. One of the things that I think is worth mentioning is it definitely was hot yesterday. It got up to 90, so that carried on into the night, and by the time I got into my tent, I was like still sweating. You know, the humidity stayed in the air, so I wasn't able to fall asleep right away because of that. I'm someone who, I like it to be super cold when I'm sleeping, so one of the things that I kind of need to get dialed in, especially if we're gonna go do this next summer and hit some of the southern routes, is what are some structures I could put in place to stay cool. And that might be like a portable fan or something, but that's something, if you guys have any suggestions, you let me know, because I like to sleep where it feels really cold. So again, it was hot last night, and even with those traps open on that tent trying to get some wind flow, I was still super hot. So that was the only kind of drawback about this. Besides that, you know, this campground's awesome. $25, and if you're doing a 3-week bike trip, that's a lot better than doing a bunch of Best Westerns, which is gonna quickly accumulate to a lot of money. So I'm pretty convinced that, especially for long bike trips, moto camping's the way to go. I'm happy with my setup right now, and like I said, the only thing I'm trying to add is a situation to kind of keep cool when we're going through a heat wave or the humidity is really high. But yeah, thanks for joining me for this one. You know, I had a blast on this trip. I'm actually gonna hightail back to Brooklyn because you can't really see it, but there's a huge storm that's gonna be rolling through here all day. So I'm gonna roll back there, pick up Jenny, and then we might head back up into Vermont and continue this little bike trip thing going that's not planned and just going on however I feel the next day. But I'll tell you what, you know, I showered here. I don't usually hit the showers at campgrounds like this, but I feel really refreshed from doing that. And basically, if I had to do this for another couple nights, I feel like I could do it. You know, I feel like this is a sustainable packing situation. All the gear I had, the situation is sustainable. Mind you, I didn't do this in the rain. The weather, it rained last night, but I didn't have to set up or break down camp in the rain like we did last year. That definitely adds a challenge. But, you know, if we're talking like pretty fair weather, you know, I feel like I could pretty much do this on repeat right now, you know, especially if this campground was great. I would definitely come back here. It's actually outside Lake Placid in the Adirondacks. But that's it, y'all. I'm going to start to break this down. Thanks for coming with me for another moto camping trip. Hope y'all are doing well. If you've never tried moto camp before, highly recommend it. And yeah, if you have any suggestions for anything that might be missing, let me know in the comments. Or if you have any questions about any of this stuff, let me know. I do plan to do this again, so I'll try to make a video that gives you a more kind of detailed rundown of some of the gear that I have that I didn't actually bust out. So yeah, stay safe, stay low, stay dry, and on that, FXCLS Brooklyn is out.